I know it's actually really hard to have young kids in the legislature. I don't know if you know this or not, my first son was born during session. And so literally my wife was we had a list of if these votes came up, you were allowed to leave the hospital to go vote. But if not, stay here with me. Right. Yeah. So it's kind of funny having that balance. I don't think a lot of people go through that. But what about you? I mean, your child you've got how many kids?
2. They're kids. 8. Well, no, they're 9 and 10 now.
Okay. Yeah.
So
a little older.
Wild.
Yeah.
How far are you from the Capitol?
So I'm an hour and a half.
Oh, so that makes that even harder, just having a baby.
Yeah.
And they're what? Yours are all under 5 or?
Yeah, so Aaron Michael's 3, Benedict's 2, and George Walton is 2 months.
Those are very professional names.
Well, I'll tell you, so Benedict, we love it. It's St. Benedict.
You call him Benedict every time?
Well, no, we call him Benny, and when he's being bad, we call him Benito, because he's being a little dictator. So it's is it a Benito day or a Benny day? So usually it's a Benny day. But she wanted to name him after her dad, whose middle name is Arnold. And I was like, we cannot have a child named Benedict Arnold.
Sure
you will get laughed out of American politics. So it's Benedict David. So what are your kids' names?
Milo and Zella.
Oh, wow.
So,
I love that.
Zella's my grandma's name. We're all named after my grandma.
Oh,
Milo's
really?
middle name is Cruz, and then Zella's first name is my grandma's name.
Well, I would say this, so I'm curious for you, what's it like when you're dealing with issues? Because I think since when I started in the legislature, I always joke I wasn't married and had no kids. Now I'm married and have 3 kids, and I think it really changes how I view things.
Really? How so?
Well, I'm way more interested in early childhood development, where I think that was something I wasn't really as involved in. Obviously maternal health, and I work a lot on even before I had kids. But now, it's just I'm really in the thick of it. It's
Have your views changed on anything?
Yeah, I think how important I think early childhood development is to some of our societal ills. I think
all of them.
Yeah, and so I just think it's when we talk about our high incarceration rate. You go back and a lot of these people in prison, they have really traumatic childhoods. They have lack of absentee fathers, things like that. And so, to me, it's one of those. I honestly I never really realized how important some of those roles were, and in many ways, it's gosh, I don't know. I think when sometimes I think about policy, it's what can we do to kind of help make it easier? And I realize, in some ways, I don't know if you felt this way or not. I think sometimes we're kind of backwards. I don't think we're with the way that we want to make society better. I sometimes feel like children are an afterthought. I don't know if you think that.
No,
or
they
not,
absolutely.
But
I think so.
And it's weird to me because it's that's our future, and yet we pay very little mind to it.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know why we don't start there. We just did a bill maybe last year called Third Grade Success Act, and it's because if you can't read by 3rd grade, you're on a bad path.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's they can tell those things at 18 months. So 3rd grade's even too late.
Yeah.
Honestly, we should be the first 1,000 days are the most important by far for a child's life.
Yeah.
And so if you're not there doing that,
and
it's also helping our workforce because we got to get if parents can't work if they don't have childcare. So we lost my kid's paternal grandmother 3 days before session started, but she was also our caregiver. They were with her all the time, and so not having childcare during session is the most stressful thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's actually what's funny too is I've actually seen some businesses now offer childcare, like gyms and things like that, because they realize basically they can't get people to even come and use their business unless they have childcare, because you'll have a young mom or a young dad be like, I can't do this if I don't have childcare. And even I've seen a lot of churches kind of get more and hey, we're having evening things in the evening. By the way, we have childcare. Actually, my wife started a St. Anne Society, and they hired a babysitter, so all these moms could come and do it during their lunch, whether they worked or not. But everyone was like, if we don't have someone to watch our kids, I can't focus.
I've seen legislative conferences that do that.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, nice.
Cool. Or CSG has that youth program, so it's the only one where you can bring your families to, because we're busy the whole time. So what are they supposed to do? But we did a tax credit for employers building childcare for their workers. Oh, no, really? Which is starting to take off. We need to increase it, but because it's a problem for chambers of commerce, it's a problem for employers, it's a problem for employees, a problem for families. It touches absolutely everybody.
Well, and I think too, one of the things I've noticed from even some of my colleagues who are also young parents like me, they'll say it's so expensive childcare is.
It is so expensive
that it's it's either they will basically they have to work extra to try to make ends meet, or they just don't do it at all, and then they end up giving up on other things because childcare just has made everything else unaffordable for their lives. I mean, I think I had one colleague, he has 2 sets of twins, and so I think
2 sets of twins?
2 sets of twins. So he has 4 under 4.
Is he a Duggar?
No, he's not a Duggar. He's a good Catholic like me. Well, it's funny. He had the 2. He was running for office, and his wife was like, "Well, if you're gonna run, I want one more baby." And then they got twins, but she's also a twin, so they should know better. It runs in the family. No, they're great. It's Rep. Britt McKenzie. He's part of the Future Caucus there. But I mean, I think they literally calculated up, and they're like, "We're losing money, by this." And so it's just, I think. And I have constituents reach out to me all the time, and they're like, "Hey, I'm working, and actually, by the end of the day, like, I'm actually going to leave the workforce because it just doesn't make sense." And
for one child, it's more than college tuition, and there's very little financial help for most families.
Yeah, and so, and I think too, obviously, something I always think about is like reentry, because like my wife, she decided to like stay at home, and that's been great for us, and we really enjoy it. I'm glad that we have that option. Some people don't have that option. But I think too, like something to think about, when they eventually go to school or whatever, a lot of people want to re-enter the workforce. Right. And I know from my mother, who was, stay-at-home mom, when she went to re-enter the workforce, it was so like daunting to her. Yeah. And I think, maybe there's something we can do about like, making it to where it's not as hard. You know what I mean? Because I do think that's like, they're scared and this, that, and like, well, is there incentives to actually hire those people and take a risk? Because the reality, if you're able to manage small children, trust me, you can manage. You can do pretty much anything.
You can do anything. Yeah, so. It is hard. Or people will be like, "What's that gap in your resume for 5 years?"
Yeah, it's like, well, I was raising a kid. Like
graphic design.
Yeah. Well, I would say that's not really a gap. That's actually when I did my tour of combat. For 5 years. So.
Yeah, it's hard. Do you take your kids to session? Have you brought them?
Occasionally, yeah, I do. Occasionally, I've got a great photo. It was actually funny. Our governor was down in Hot Springs. They do like a Capital in a Day deal, and so I had my kids with me. So they went to the governor's conference room, and they're like literally like sitting in like the chairs and like pointing and yelling. And so like I took a photo and put it up on Twitter, and I was like, the governor's out, we've taken over, it's been a coup. Yes. Aaron Michael is now the governor of Arkansas, and which I was kind of worried they might not find that funny. They thought it was hilarious. I mean, the governor's staff was like, that's so cute. But yeah, they were great. They had they're called Dad Special stickers, my campaign stickers. They were running around and being silly, and I do. I like to take them around and just kind of just show them, because I'm not going to be there forever, and I just think it's a really cool thing to like, let them kind of experience.
Does everyone try to give them candy?
No, not everybody, but they've got a little stranger danger still. Like they'll kind of run away from certain people. Some of the reps, they know, they're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. But I would say it is really nice. We've got such a young legislature with so many kids there now. Like when I first started, I saw maybe like 1 or 2 kids under 5. I think now it's like, I mean, literally I said like, should we open up a daycare in the Capitol?
Yes, you should.
Yeah, maybe.
Because your staff have kids too.
They do, yeah, they do.
We have one on campus, but it's hard. There aren't enough spots.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
Maybe that's a good bill for me for next session.
That's a great one.
Yeah, because we have a whole Capitol district, so yeah, maybe.
And I'm sure you got room somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. We're like, I don't know if your Capitol's like, ours is like super squished.
Really?
Oh yeah. So we need to actually
have more room. Ours looks like the big one.
Oh, nice.
Identical to it.
Yes, I've actually been to it. It's really pretty. Yeah. Big gold dome.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I bring my kids on snow days because I don't have childcare.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so hard too. Like I just think about like the single moms too, who like they're working, they're single, like they don't have like a spouse to help them out, and then it's like like a snow day, or they'll say like, oh, your kid has a temperature so high, and some kids just run hot. They're like, sorry, can't take them today. Won't take them today, and it's like you're like just stuck.
What do you do?
So it's, and then once again, I think that's like sometimes our priorities, like in our policies and ways we've kind of set up society, is like so backwards, because it's like, we should want people to have kids and have families. That's like, an essential part of being a human. And it's like, yet we treat it like an afterthought. It's crazy.
That's very true. I agree completely. How big is your majority?
So we have 82 out of 100 members.
Oh, okay.
So we're pretty big.
Mine is 89.
Oh, wow.
But I'm 11.
You're 11. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So.
And we've actually had, it was 13, and we've had 2 flips since then.
Yeah. I don't know, obviously the extreme is like, I think it's easier for me than you because I'm in the majority. Sure. And so like, I think sometimes it's easier to cross the aisle because like, I mean, I'll get some maybe pushback from some members, like, why you always, talking to them and this and that. But it's like, I mean, I think if you know what you believe, like, you're not afraid of having those conversations. And like, I think it's almost like a part of like insecurity. If you're so afraid you can't walk into the other camp and like say like, I believe X, it's like, then do you really believe it? Because if you're just in your own echo chamber,
Do you have members that won't talk to other people?
No, I don't think we have anything like that. You have some, it's kind of like a little standoffish kind of deal. But, and always after the election cycle, I think it's kind of that way. I'm sure it's kind of the same way, too.
It's like, a little raw for a while.
A little raw. And then, but then usually it's like, we're on committees, this and that. And, I think the Democrats in Arkansas, actually, in the legislature at least, are pretty good about being like, if I want to get anything passed, like, I got to go talk to a Republican. And then I think the Republicans are always pretty good about, like, we got a big enough majority. It doesn't hurt us to talk to them. It's kind of one of those deals where, like, maybe it's like a silver lining when you do have a supermajority. It's like there's a little bit more, like, trust me, it's okay. It's,
Do you guys run Democrat bills?
Like, do we run them? Like, we let them be like, yeah, typically we do. And, a lot of times I've actually told, like, some of my colleagues, like, go get some Republican co-sponsors, just so it feels, more bipartisan. But, it's at the end of session when things are going so fast, we'll have, like, technical cleanup bills, and we'll let Democrats run those, too. And not let them. It's like,
how
hey.
Nice.
Yeah, not let them. But you know what I mean? It's like, they don't, it's like, yeah, cool, no worries.
Yeah.
You're senior member on judiciary, and that's typically the person who, like, runs those, so you go and do that. And yeah, I usually think, like, if it's a good idea, we don't. But that's usually, like I said, it's kind of like later on session. I think in the beginning, I think we try to be a little more collaborative. And I think, like, some of the other members of the Future Caucus, like Jamie Scott, like, she's really good about, like, hey, I got this bill idea. I'm going to go talk to some members and try to get some, like, Republicans signed up on it, too, so we feel comfortable about it, But, yeah, so.
Do the Democrats have Republicans run the bills?
No, sometimes not.
Like, steal them, put their name on them?
Yeah, we've had that in the past. Yeah, you have that too.
That happens to me all the time.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. What's a bill of yours that got stolen?
Putting the suicide hotline on student ID cards.
Really?
Got stolen word for word.
Oh, wow.
And I don't care because I'm glad it happened.
Yeah.
But they didn't even tell me.
Oh, wow. Really?
It's wild.
That is crazy. Yeah, I would say we used to have that way more. Like I said, now I think it's like you have such a big majority, or it's like, as long as we can co-sponsor and put our name on it, you know.
Yeah.
I always joke to him, like, listen, I'm going to put that on my mailer when I run for re-election. I did X, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
I do. Yeah, I do it anyways.
Yeah, it's like,
nope, voters don't
you
know.
voted for it,
yeah.
you might as well be able to take credit for it. So, yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Do you talk to? So what we have is, like, when there's a really contentious issue. Like, I love all the members, maybe not all the members of the legislature, but I'm close with a lot of people. We hang out, we're we're friends.
Yeah.
But after really contentious issues, I don't want to talk to them for a couple days.
No, I would say we're kind of the same way. And it's just, it's like, it'd be silly to think you wouldn't be raw after something like that. Even like, people who are in the Future Caucus with us, like, we've had bills where we've been on the other side and, like, had some very contentious debates. And, I think, like, with almost any relationship you have with anyone, sometimes, like, you don't have to be right next to them, like, the moment after. Like, you're going to go home, this and that. And I actually think what's nice is, like, with my young kids, like, I go home a lot of nights. And so it's like, I'm not in that evening, like, across a restaurant with somebody and, like, it's still raw. You're trying to, like, talk. It's like, you take a little time, you breathe. But I don't know, arts are so busy too. It's like you're just kind of moving on to the next thing.
Yeah,
is a big deal. And so, I think that's kind of like a big thing.
Ours is the same.
Yeah, and so, trust me, there's been times when I've been like, I don't want to see anyone, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and,
absolutely.
So I'm not a saint in that regard.
I think it'd be crazy to think that you can't be like that because we're all people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's true. I'm curious too. So, like, is there any areas that you like? It's like you can't believe, like, you have people on the other side be like leaning on in,
Like, want to do it?
Yeah, like, you're like, hey, I have this idea, and people are like, that's a great idea, Kayla. Like, or like, they're like, oh, I'm really fascinated in that. Like, let's talk about.
Yeah, I have all kinds of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What are some ones y'all have got?
Nuclear energy is a big one.
Oh,
you
nice.
have a nuclear plant in your district.
I do. Yeah.
I had a lot of Democrats really mad at me about that.
Really?
Yeah, Democrats don't like nuclear energy very much, which is, I find very hard to believe.
Yeah,
but,
it's clean.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
So that was one that I ran with the Senate president. So that was weird.
Oh, nice.
I was running the House bill, he was running the Senate bill, and so they were like, what?
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
It's like, this is our thing. Lots of awesome. Economic development stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, most of what all of us do in the legislature is really boring information that we all agree on. Yeah. It's just the stuff that's in the news that's flashy and that we fight on.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, I think like 90% of what we do is nonpartisan or bipartisan, and like we typically can agree with, and then it's like that 10% that gets all the news and gets all the hype, like, is the really contentious things. And I would say too, like for us, it's like if we can just like put those kind of in a box to the side, like we're not going to agree on it, then that's okay, and then just focus on the other things. Like, maternal health is a great one, and like I actually found it was really interesting. Arkansas, we have a total ban when it went into effect, and so obviously there's still a lot of maternal health work that I was doing beforehand, want to keep doing. It was actually nice was I think a lot of them actually leaned in and go, okay, we get it, like that's where the state is, that's where the legislature is, but can you at least work on these issues with us? And then, a lot of our colleagues were like, yeah, like we say we're...
Do you think it was genuine, though?
I think it was. I mean, at least I know for me, I think it's...
Well, for you it is genuine, I know that.
Well, I think, too, we have some other members who are very genuine in that. Representative Mary Bentley, she's not a millennial, but she's a former pediatric nurse, like very pro-life.
Well, she would get it.
But she gets it 100%, and she like really does care. And, she helped start the midwifery program that we got, we just passed. And so... I think there is a lot of genuine, maybe some members, but not the people who are actually in the trenches, like working on the issue, who are like literally saying like, I like that, let's do that. I don't know, let's kind of maybe not that part, But I think I've actually been really shocked on their, because my worry was they would just completely like not even engage on it and be like, well, you have this, we're only going to focus on that, and we don't want to talk about anything else. And instead, the lean in, was like, great, like. Thank goodness, because I do think like, and what's really interesting in that topic is like, it's not like, it's an issue I think the other side has really dominated and been really good on their messaging, and we haven't. And it's like, there's no reason why we shouldn't be.
Maternal health?
Yeah. And why we shouldn't be like also offering ideas and solutions, things like that. And I always say too, like, there's kind of issues that are like the Republicans care more about or the Democrats care more about. And I always like, why don't you flip them? Like I've told Jamie, like, why don't you take a Republican issue and try to find a solution, since we're not finding a solution on it? And same, I'll take an issue that y'all really care about, like, and one I've really gotten into recently is like housing. And it's like, I don't really hear a lot of Republicans talk about like the need of housing. Yeah. It's something that I hear from the left all the time. It's like, you know what? I'm going to find some conservative solutions for housing, because guess what? It will be an issue, and the next thing you know, we're going to be talking about it nonstop, and we're going to have all these ideas. It's like, it'd be great if we were actually proactive. And that's something I've always tried to be, is be a little more like proactive. And so it's like, I like, tax abatement for like multi-generational housing, so that grandma and grandkids can live in a house together with the parents, and they kind of combine their resources, getting that home ownership ladder. But nobody builds generational housing, and so how do you incentivize to do that? And so I think things like that, it's like those are things I'm not hearing from the other side, but it's like, well, this is my problem, how would I solve it as a conservative? And same with like, I tell Jamie, I'm like, why don't you take one of our problems and how would you solve it as a liberal?
Oh my gosh.
So
I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, it's a fun exercise. I mean, it doesn't always produce results, but I think it is just like, mentally it helps keep you sharp.
Yeah,
so.
I think so.
I think for me, it was like how to balance your career, because yours is a part-time legislature like ours is. And so it's like, how do you balance a career with, being a legislator? Like, that's really hard. And then it's interesting too, because I think sometimes you do think like, obviously you get limited in some of your options for your career while you're being a legislator.
Big time.
And so I think that's one of the things like maybe I wasn't fully conscious of when I first started. And so, I think that's a challenge, especially when you're young and you're having a family and you're doing things like, you don't want to limit your career, but at the same time, in some ways you are. And then of course, but you're being a legislator, so hopefully on the back end it actually works out for you. But I think that's one of the things I, as a challenge that wasn't really like fully prepared for, is like, especially like, working in healthcare. It's like I couldn't be like, like I couldn't be the CEO of like a critical access hospital. Like it would take too much of my time. There's no way I could be gone for session the way I am.
No, there's no way. Has your friends, my friends come to mind, has your friend group changed, or do you, well, with family it's hard, but but also like my friends have totally changed a lot.
Really? Wow.
I not totally changed, but I only want to be around a very select group of people. And during session, I'm only around session people because you like feel like you're in war and you go home and stare at the wall. And the only people, like, you can't turn the brain off.
Oh yeah, no, especially during sessions. Like I get home and it's like all I want to do that weekend is like just like I want to relax. I want to be with my wife and my kids. Like I don't want to like think about anything. And you're right. Like when you're there, it's like you're working and you're talking to those people and like it's just there's so much that goes on outside of the committee room.
It's so demanding.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't think my friend group has changed that much.
Yeah.
What's actually funny is I found a lot of my friends have actually got more involved politically with other things, whether it's like city council or running for like a JP, just because I think it's like, they see me and they're like, oh, well, if you can do it, like I can do it. And, and I think too, I kind of goad them into a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think it's, but it does make a weird part in your like friendship because you will sometimes get like weird calls and it's like, like literally one time I had a friend call me like was complaining about some like tax he was paying and I was like, well, like sorry man, like I mean? Like,
or you have to explain how it works.
Yeah, I was like that's not like it was something federally too. I'm like I don't have any control over that, man. Like I know you're mad, but like I can't do anything about that part. So sometimes there's that, but yeah, and I think too, I don't know, it's like a young legislator. I think it's put it this way. I think it's like. It's really weird to realize like you're just not going to be here like when you're the same age as some of your colleagues.
Yeah.
And I think that's always something I kind of think about is like, you've got members who are in their 60s and 50s who are like working on this. And it's like, it's so weird because like I will be 50, 60 your age and I will not be here anymore. And I'll be like looking in on this. And I'm curious like what I will think about this.
Yeah.
Compared to like what you're thinking about me right now serving with you. I don't know. That's a weird thing to think about. Like what's your legacy? So
I have a teacher that was my teacher.
Yeah.
That is in my legislature.
Wow. Okay.
He was my teacher when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And now it was so funny. We
got
got there and I was like, hey, Mr. Farrell. And he was like, call me Dana. And I was like, no. And
that's
awesome. Like, oh my gosh. I was like, we have the same job. How about that?
Yeah.
That's weird. But it is strange. I don't know that I'll ever like not pay attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ever.
So you mentioned family. I mean, has your family relationships changed? I mean, has it been like hard on your like extended?
My kids hate session.
Oh yeah.
They hate it.
Yeah.
It's miserable.
Yeah.
They hate it so much. They don't like campaigning very much. They like going out and talking to people, but I mean, it's like, when you go out in the community, you're not just out with your kids. You are getting stopped by every single human on the planet, and you don't want to, which is a good thing, but it's like, you don't want to be mean to people, but you're like, I have to go. Well, your kids are tiny, but when they get bigger, they will be like, why are you stopping and talking to that person? Yeah. And so it's...
Oh yeah, we'll like, and it's even funny, even like with like, Aaron Michael's 3 years old. Like he's like, hey, I want to go. Like, I don't want to be standing here in the middle of Walmart talking to somebody for the next like 20 minutes. And yeah, it is. It's, I can understand why your kids would really hate it. Mine are so young, they don't like really get it as much. And like, like I said, I try to be home as much as I can. But I always think the weird thing is like, we have term limits. And so I'll
really? How long are they?
16 years.
Whoa.
So, and I've served 8, so I got another 8 more. But I do think like, so Aaron Michael will be 12, so he'll have some idea of like what I was being a legislator.
Yeah.
But it is weird for like, I think about like my son, Benny and George, like I do think like, will they even know me in this way? Like,
right.
And I'm always benefit too, because like I was a legislator, like I said, wasn't married, didn't have kids. So like when my wife met me, like she was like, I know the deal. Like I know how session works. Like, she knew what she was signing up for. I actually feel bad because I know a lot of legislators, like it really like there's a struggle in their marriage when they first get in because it's an adjustment for life, you know what I mean? And so, and I know I had another legislator, she was fairly young and she left, but she had 2 young kids. And I think it was really hard on her to like be down as much as she was. So she ended up running for a different position that kept her closer to home and it worked out. But like, I mean, it is tough. And I do feel like I'm very lucky the way it all like worked out because they, I was already a legislator and they kind of came to be part of my life. Whereas like other people, like I do feel bad for them because I mean, like, and I'm sure like some spouses are like, I didn't sign up for this.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Well, you have to like have the buy-in, and you can't really know what it's going to be like. Are the older legislators, were they mean to you when you came in, or not mean, but like, did they think of you like you weren't going to be very serious, or think you were staff or anything like that? I got that a lot.
Yeah, we had 2 other like young people who were there when I did, so it wasn't like super foreign to them. There was, I mean, yeah, it really depended on the member, but there definitely were some who was like, people be like, I got pairs of shoes that are older than you, and you're like, oh, that's cool.
Oh.
And I had one legislator be like, what did he say? Like, in 30 years, you'll be my age. And I was like, yeah, in 30 years, you'll be dead.
That's right.
So, I was like, we want to talk about what we're going to look like in 30 years. It's just weird stuff like that. And I think, too, for most time, they're trying to be harmless. They're just trying to, make conversation. But sometimes it's a little jarred. I knew another younger legislator. Someone asked him, like, hey, how old are you? And he just turned around and goes, how much do you weigh? We're going to ask inappropriate questions about ourselves. Like, I'm old enough to be here. What does it matter? Right. But I told him, I was like, well, I think they're just trying to be nice and trying to make conversation and not be,
Like, they're just boomers.
Yeah. And there are some people who I think, they do not take you seriously because I think you're young. Or, you haven't been, I know what it's like. Yeah. And it's like, I know how to convert a PDF to Word, and you don't. So, let's be honest, we both have different skill sets. And I think, actually, as I've gotten older, there's also, we've got our first Gen Z who's going to be entering the legislature soon. And, there's things she says to me, and I'm like, what? I've never felt so old, and it's like, and I'm still a younger member. Yeah. And so that's just kind of the natural order of the world. But I will say, I think what's really actually nice, though, and I think that's kind of has allowed them to kind of get more buy-in with us as younger legislators is, talking about issues and them going, you know what, actually, I remember when I was your age and I was having kids and what that was like. And that was terrible. And I wasn't in the legislature then. I couldn't do anything about it. And it almost helps them, especially I think since I started having kids, I think they get kind of flashbacks. I remember when I first had my kid and this and that. And it always helps them remember issues that were important to them back then that in 20 years they'd kind of forgotten about and it wasn't in the forefront of their mind.
I wish that would happen to me.
Oh, really?
I wish they would do that.
Oh, yeah?
That would be great.
Yeah, that would be great. I don't know. That's interesting because I do find that, I honestly do think, having kids has made them actually respect me more.
Probably.
And so, I wish...
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because you're an adult either way.
Yeah, true.
You literally do the same job as them, so it shouldn't happen. I get a lot of backhanded compliments.
Oh, really?
At the end of my first year, they were like, you are so good. We had no idea. And I'm like, what did you think?
Yeah.
Going into it, it feels like we have to prove ourselves.
Yeah.
Very early on, and a lot of them just sit there and do nothing. So
do you think that's also you being a Democrat is you think they also just kind of dismiss you because of your party?
Probably. I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah. I wondered being a Republican if it's a little more well, at least you're on our team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that happened to you. So.
I don't care. It's fine. But they know now, so they all like me because I'm effective.
It's to their detriment. I think if you're fast and quick and
that's right.
Can get around them, it's oh, whoa, this is actually someone to take serious, not just some frat boy who fell off the turnip truck.
Right.
So
yeah, we have a lot of those.
Favorite thing about West Virginia?
The people, for sure.
The people?
The people of West Virginia.
Okay, that's a typical politician answer.
No, it's really
give me
true.
Give me something that's not living.
Pepperoni rolls.
There we go. Bam. Fairmont, West Virginia. Pepperoni rolls.
From Fairmont are the best ones.
Yeah. Well, I went to high school in Fairmont.
Yeah. And those are the best pepperoni rolls. That's true. I'm not from Fairmont, and I will.
All right. There we go.
I will. See, we agree.
Yeah. We can agree. I love it.
What's your favorite part of Arkansas? Walmart?
No, I do love Walmart.
I love Walmart.
They do a lot of good. I always tell people people want to bash on Walmart all they want, but when it's when it's 11:30 at night and your kid's running the temperature and you need to get more Tylenol and they're open, you're like, thank God.
I'm not hating on Walmart. Yeah. I'm hating on Dollar General.
I love Dollar Generals too.
I bet you do. They put them 3 miles apart.
I know, it's crazy.
A problem.
I feel like they took the Dunkin' Donuts approach and we're just going to build them over.
Yeah.
But no, my favorite thing about Arkansas, that is not the people, because obviously I would say the people as well. I would say this. The Ozark Mountains are just amazing to hike, and we have all these new bike trails up there, and it is just, it's one of those things I don't I'm an Eagle Scout, so I'm supposed to be naturey, but I'm not as naturey as I think probably most people at Arkansas are. But it's one of those things you just get out there sometimes, it's oh my gosh, it's just you're life's okay, the world's okay, the streams still are, running, and the leaves are still, shining, the squirrels are still running around, life's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of peace in those mountains that I think it's really great.
Ours are the same.
Yeah.
You know.
We have
a national park now.
Yeah. Oh, you do? I didn't know that.
New River Gorge.
Yeah, I remember
They shoved it into one of the COVID bills. I'll take it.
Hey, gotta take it. So That's awesome. Well, I'll say you need to come down and flip the Buffalo River sometime.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, it's a good time. So we've had legislators like get together and do like group trips, like
That's
flown
fun.
down. So yeah,
that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, maybe
we
we'll make
can go
that a
there
future caucus.
Yeah.
Like, I tell them we need to do Northwest Arkansas. We can go like the bike trails and the Buffalo River, and there's a lot of cool things. We've got Crystal Bridges, the beautiful art museum over there.
Oh, it's so pretty.
It is. It's great. Have you been?
No, I've seen it.
You should come. It's awesome, and it's really weird. But they're doing the Alice Walton School of Medicine, which is like attached to Crystal Bridges.
Oh.
So it's like it's very cool. There's a great children's museum out there too. That's like awesome.
Cool.
Like shares a parking lot with it, so you can like take your kid through like Crystal Bridges and do all that, and it's like the kids museum. It's really like a cool family area. Yeah.
Yay.
That'd be awesome. You should bring them.
I will. Well, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks to you. Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.